Hey Fab Fam, it's Vinny B with Dead on Board Gaming, and I'd like to wish you guys a happy new year and hope you're having a safe and wonderful holiday season up until this point. To ring the new year out, I wanted to go ahead and go over my Ice Lexi deck that I've been working on since release. I spent a couple weeks on Lightning Lexi, but I knew I was going to end up in Ice. I'm naturally drawn to Ice characters and elements and spells. Anything that's Ice is kind of I don't know, I'm just a fan. So anyways, I wanted to go over this. I'm super happy with my main board. The sideboard's a little flaky. I think the idea I have might be okay, but I was trying it with Shiver. I just took Shiver out. I haven't replaced it, but I think it's going to be the Ranger arms that have Arcane Barrier and let you put a card from your hand into the arsenal and give it +1. I think that's going to be the other sideboard card, but I haven't switched it yet because going over it I wasn't 100% sure. And I'd also like you guys to give me a little bit of feedback on it and hopefully and kind of give me a good idea. I play as much as I can, but there are matchups I just don't have enough reps to really understand, so I might be missing sideboard cards or maybe missing the idea of what I'm trying to do, where Electrify and Ice Storm don't make as much sense. That being said, like I said, my main deck, which is what I really want to kind of go over with you guys, and I'm very happy with. So we'll start with the equipment. We're going Voltaire, Heart of Ice, or Fendel Spring Tunic. I notice I use Heart of Ice a little bit more, but I put them in. It doesn't mean it's good. The problem is you don't know if they're a lot of decks. You don't know if it's going to be control or not. And if they're not control, Heart of Ice is not as good. But it also has Arcane Barrier, which is kind of like our only source of actual Arcane Barrier in the deck right now, which might change as Kano gets more and more popular. I've noticed people picking it up. There's cards coming out, and I believe we'll get a Wizard next year. So that all makes sense. But as of right now, we're going with that. Lexi, if you don't know what she does, she has Essence of Ice and Lightning. Once per turn, you can flip your face down card from your arsenal face up. If it's a lightning card, your next attack gets go again. If it's an ice card, you give your opponent a frostbite token. And that is what we are trying to do forever. This is a very tempo-oriented deck, and the thing I love about Lexi is her ability to gain tempo, keep tempo, or steal tempo back throughout a game. Of course, you can get run over. Of course, you fall into problems with Rangers, where you end up with a hand with no attacks or just one attack that's not very strong. But again, that comes down to play and knowing when to throw your hand away as a block or not. We're also using Voltaire Strike twice. It's a twice per turn instant. You may put a card from your hand face up into your arsenal zone, or an arsenal zone, because of course, New Horizon gives us 2. And you can either give it +1 or go again. Both are very good in this deck, and we'll get to that. I already went over Spring Tunic. The New Horizon, while you have a face-up card in your arsenal, you have an additional arsenal zone. This card is very important, but we also break it. There's a point in the game where you just have to admit you're not going to have a 6-card hand anymore. And that's when this comes in handy. It's going to save you 2 points of damage. Perch Grapplers could be another card. I honestly always just block 2 with it. I haven't found too many hands where the abilities... It costing 2's a lot. Like, I know it's very good, but it costing 2's a lot. But having the ability to do it, I think, is a very good threat on the board. And there's always a chance that you know what I mean, you can give +1/+1 to 2 different attacks, even 3 different attacks. No, 2 different attacks from Voltaire, and then fire a third one off without having to waste a go again on Voltaire. So that's what it does, combo nice, but again, 2's a lot. That being said, we are a blue heavy deck because we are using Shock Charmers, and the idea is to always threaten a good Shock Charmers turn. I know people think it's wrong to pitch into Shock Charmers a lot of the time, but honestly, like, fatigue is an issue with Ranger, so when you can add damage and effects without actually losing cards, it's actually a very big bonus, and it also, again, gives your opponent something else to think about. When you start tagging on hit effects, that this is going to pump and do additional hit effects, it incentivizes more blocking, which again, we're just trying to keep tempo. We're trying to take turns away. Any turn they have to draw and pass is a huge win. I know that's a huge win throughout the game, but it is a huge win for this deck because then we get to try to frostbite, discard a card again, and cause them to skip another turn. Again, even if they're only taking 1 or 2 damage, we are keeping the pressure on. And eventually they'll attempt to pivot, where they're going to take more damage than they should, and with the right hand you can decimate their hand down to where they still don't have a strong... You take a lot of strong turns off of people with this deck. Shock Charmers, again, is just a threat most of the time. Most people don't do it. It also has Spell Void 2, which will save your life in an arcane battle. When they come down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, so we'll get into it now. We got all 9 Blizzard Bolts. And we also have all 9 Chilling Ice Veins. These are very strong arrows. Blizzard Bolt says if you Ice Fuse it, whenever an attack deals damage this turn, create a Frostbite token. So this combos with Shock Charmers. And also, both these cards add the effect to all attacks. That's where it's huge. That's what this deck is trying to do. That's why we're running them all. Plus, we want the blues for Shock Charmers. But if we can start a turn with Blizzard Bolt into Chilling Ice Vein, or vice versa, the second arrow becomes almost a necessary block. The second arrow, also off of Voltaire Strike Twice, is going to be pumped by 1. So if your second arrow is a red, you get to make it a 6 instead of a 5, which is... it's a double break point, you know what I mean? Because, like, 4 is a problem, 5 is a problem, 6, in a format where there's a lot of 2 blocks, it becomes a thing where it's a third card or a piece of equipment, and if it has double hit effects, they're incentivized to go for it, as I've been saying. Bolt and Shot is, the red one's just, gravy, you put it in, you give it +1, it gets go again from the +1, and only if you don't have a card in your arsenal you can reload. The reload thing's a little unintuitive due to New Horizon changing that, and you not being able to fill your slot even though you have an additional arsenal slot. Command and Conquer I actually just added to the main deck. It wasn't the sideboard, but I brought it in every match and had to figure out what to take out or put in. So it made it a little easier just to take the cold waves out and one of the flake outs, because those are better in matchups and not as good in matchups, and I usually forget that those are the cards that probably should come out. So I made these decisions before we made this video. Endless Arrow slowly has become one of my favorite cards in this deck. Being able to arsenal this card gives you a third arrow for free, so you get to Voltaire go again, shoot Endless Arrow at the end. Comes in for 4, which has a breakpoint, and it comes back to your hand. So if you have 2 to 3 strong turns in a row where you end with Endless Arrow, they have to make decisions throughout. Not to mention that third arrow, if you're able to fuse Chilling Ice Vein and Blizzard Bolt, let's just say in an awesome turn you get a Blizzard Bolt, a Chilling Ice Vein, your Endless Arrow comes in for 4 from your arsenal. If it hits, they have to discard a card unless they pay 1 and get a Frostbite, and you get the card back to arsenal again and set up for another wide turn. Endless Arrow is fantastic. Next would be a single flake out. We have a second one in the sideboard. Again, the sideboard could change, but you're pitching this, and you are trying to end the game with this card. This card and Weave Ice Blue are like your end game cards, and you want it. And if you get into pitch stacking and you start making that a skill, which if I sit and think about it, I semi-have. I'm not very good at it, but I can. But I don't do it very often in this deck because, again, I'm just not that good, I guess. You should be pitch stacking all the time. You should always be setting up. But again, you're trying to still tempo to the point where when you get to the bottom of your deck, you should have this because you're going to throw Flake out. You're going to throw some red cards out because you're a red heavy deck. And hopefully you can finish it off through there. But Flake out, you're pitching it early. You want that to come up and just be able to fuse and give it dominate. Ice Quake Red is +3 and to your next attack, and all your attacks are going to give frostbites. Again, we're trying to stack up 2-3 attacks that all have hit effects. This card's awesome. The blue one mainly pitches. I don't play it very often. But again, if we, 3 of a kind and it ends up, well, it's almost always a pitch. Towards the end of the game, it gives you a threat to make them kind of throw away your hand, but it's almost always a pitch. Pulse of Oldhaven, there's not much to say about this. This just combos with Lexi real good. When you reveal her, they get a frostbite, you get go again on one of your attacks. So your first arrow you can pump by 1 and it automatically has go again. So again, we're just incremental damages, you know what I mean? Buckle in, we're not killing anybody super fast. Lightning Press, it just goes over the top and makes all your cards a little bit better. It's free. The only card it doesn't affect is Command and Conquer, which I don't think we've talked about yet, which we'll get to just now, but that's the only card it doesn't pump. Everything else it goes over and can kill. Again, this is probably a pitch early, or wait for a arrow you really want to hit and let them try to block and push it over. Command and Conquer, if we didn't go over, I like it in here now because it's a third attack. So Voltaire go again, Command and Conquer. Not to mention, if you're fusing, Command and Conquer still gets all the hit effect pumps. So, get a Frostbite, discard a card, lose your arsenal as a third attack on a chain where everything has a hit effect and they're incentivized to block is, again, it's just super strong when you're swinging for 6 at the end, and it could just completely wreck what's going on. Especially if, again, they start blocking because we're throwing reds out and they don't want to discard a card unless they pay 1, so they block that one heavy. And then you come over top with this. And then again, they end up with a 2 block. They can't block it. They end up with all those things, and they lose their turn. All you're looking for the whole time. Remorseless is just a great Ranger card. It says that defense reactions can't be played from your arsenal on this chain link, so it protects itself from that. And if it hits, action cards, so they have to play a card, cost them 1 life. Puts a little bit of strain on them, and it also comes in for 5 for 1, so Lightning Press can pump it. I also throw this as a last arrow a lot of times, so we can try to add, again, other hit effects to it. Because that's all we're doing. We're Voltroning arrows and trying to make the best arrow at the end. So they're incentivized to, again, weaken or lose a turn. 3 of a kind. I was messing with taking it out or putting it in, but I think it just always stays in, considering that we are a Shock Charmers deck. So drawing blues is good. Again, if you sneak 1 damage in and you have a hit effect on it and you have 3 blues, you can make that hit effect go off 3 more times. And even if they pitch a blue to the discard triggers, they would have 1 more where they would lose another card. So again, Shock Charmers just has this threat that if they decide they're going to take 1 and they're going to pitch a blue and you're like, I'll Shock Charmers for 3, that's 4 instances they'll have to discard or pay 1. Not to mention the 3 extra damage that we're trying to bleed them through anyways. Where does that? We did Pulse. All right, Frostlock. It's a blue, and in some decks, against some decks, it's very good. This is one of the cards I side out a lot because sometimes it's just not that good. I don't know why I can't go down further. But it's a 3 arrow. It gets +4 or +1 if you fuse it. So it's like a 4 arrow if you fuse it. You can also make it your last arrow, give it +1. That makes it a 5. That's pretty good. But as long as you confuse it, it has the break point. And what it says is, cards and activated abilities your opposing hero costs an additional thing. So it's like a Channel Lake Frigid effect across the turn from the time you play it. And then if it hits, they can't pitch or play zeros until your next turn. So it kind of turns off some of these control decks with a lot of zeros and things like that. Lightning Briar, this card is just something they never ever want to see. That also goes for Channel Lake Frigid. Channel Lake Frigid, again, is going to do what a Frostbite does, but it's permanent. It has Channel Ice, so it stays on, and it gets a counter at the end of every turn. As long as you have that many ice cards in your pitch, it sticks around. If you can get this, but even one turn's good. So like if you pitch it, play it, on your next turn, you get that effect till the end of the turn. That's where the gem is. If you can keep it around another turn from there, like if you pitch 2 ice cards and you get another one, now you're getting 3 turns out of it pretty much. And this card with a Frostbite by itself is just so annoying because they have to pay 2 and then pay an extra 1. They're usually their first actions costing them 2 extra, and then their second actions cost them 1 extra, and that pretty much eats the turn, even if they keep a full hand. Amulet of Ice, again, is one of my favorite cards in here because if you have this on board and they decide to do a pivot turn where they're going to take a lot of damage, at the end of the turn, you can, as long as you fused, you get to have them discard a card or pay 2. So you get to take a card away, even if they decide that they don't want to. And then, if they're just blocking with 1 and trying to get, and you take another card from them, again, we're just messing with everything they're playing. They have to sit and think about Frostbite things, and then not even considering that we might make them discard. Also, with Chilling Ice Vein, it combos because then they discard, have to pay 1. If they pay 1 and you do this, now they have to do another card. Now you're 2 cards. So Amulet of Ice is super strong. And then we are going to finish it off with Weave Ice, red and blue. Again, blue is your pitch early, but it's also going to win games towards the end because it gives the dominate effect. Super strong. Also, if you can pitch even just 1 to the bottom early, the +3 is bigger than the +1 and stuff like that. But these couple dominate arrows, dominate effects, are really kind of the lifeblood at the end of the game, because it's like, again, it's gonna slug out. Like, they have to decide to start taking damage because of all the hit effects that are going to slow them down if they're blocking to save, and having these weak turns, they have to do it eventually. And as long as they don't just completely grip tempo and you have bad blocks, as long as the game's an actual game, it's going to come down to, like Flesh and Blood does, a couple of hit points a game. And, you know, again, a Flake Out or a Weave Ice Blue or even a Polar Blast is going to give you that dominate that has a good possibility of just ending the game. I also did forget about Polar Blast Blue. Target opposing hero may pay 1. If they don't, they give you dominate, and if you play this out of your arsenal, you get to draw a card. So it's going to draw you a card, and it gives them the opportunity to either discard a card or give you dominate. And again, dominate's kind of how we're winning the end game. When we're both scratching together, you play Polar Blast, they have to decide if they want to pay 1 or see what you have with dominate, or they're automatically going to pay 1 because they can't afford you to have dominate. And again, this all comes down to tempo. Other than that, that's pretty much the deck. I hope I kind of went over all the lines and what I really liked about it. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. I'm going to make sure this is down in the description. If you guys have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. I'll go over the sideboard real quick, but like I said, I'm not 100% happy with it. But right now, it's 3 Electrifies, 3 Ice Storms, 2 Cold Wave, a Flake Out, a Channel Lake Frigid, and 3 Take Covers. Take Cover and Channel Lake Frigid come in with no sideboard. Actually, Actually, the way I do it, how did we do it? It was take cover, Channel Lake Frigid, and the 3 arrows I put in against control. So Bravo and Oldham. I do that to have the extra cards with the threat density, and I actually have a fairly good matchup against those, and I feel like those are supposed to be harder matchups for us. Now I could be wrong, and again, Ice Lexi might just be good against it, period. But I have very good luck going wide against those decks, going over top of them with all their 0 defense reactions and stuff is tough. We also bring in Heart of Ice, and we almost always activate it. So you activate that, you start attacking, and now you're turning off their zeros. When you start figuring out they don't have a lot of zeros, that's when Heart of Ice becomes a problem, and you're like, because I played a Bravo deck the other day that wasn't defensive. It was very aggro, and Heart of Ice sat there and did nothing for me besides block 1 at some point. Again, I think the matches are good. So going wide, I think, is just kind of the way to go. But again, guys, that's it. I want to thank you guys. I want to wish you guys a happy new year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of Dead on Board Gaming. We'll be celebrating that right after the new year. Matter of fact, it's first week of New Year's. I think January 1st was our first upload. I want to thank all you guys for being here. Tonight we'll be on doing some streaming on our Twitch channel. I'll put that in the description too if you guys want to come hang out. Bob unfortunately won't be here. He's feeling a little ill, but I'll be hanging out because it's Thursday and we want to do that. I'll also be accepting webcam challenges if you guys want to do that. Just throw it out there. Anyways, you guys have a great one, and as always, thank you for being the best community in gaming, and I will catch you next year.